And we need to be faithful to each other. Jot this down. Psalm 15, verses 2 and 4. I say verses 2 and 4 because we're set up in verse 1 with people that are going to have intimacy with God. We're going to know God. We're going to relate to God. We're going to be godly people. In verse 2, it says we need to speak the truth in our hearts. If you want a good phrase that represents what we've just read in the first two verses of our study today, in verses 17 and 18, it's that he's speaking the truth in his heart. Nothing comes out of his mouth that he doesn't mean in his heart. Like he says earlier, everything I've written, everything I've said, it's what I mean. And he says, I plan to come to you twice. I meant it. I speak the truth in my heart and it comes out of my mouth. That's what I meant. And you need to be someone who speaks the truth in your heart. Now it gets down in verse 4, the bottom of verse 4 says, and you commit or you swear even to your own hurt and you don't change. Well, I was planning on finishing this course of study, but it got hard. Well, I was going to go and meet you Saturday night for that meal, but something else came up. That's not how it works. Are you a person of your word to other people? That's how this needs to work. Of course, God is my first priority. I'm faithful to him. But I've got to be faithful to the people around me, vertical and horizontal faithfulness. I'm just saying, we need to learn of God's faithfulness humbly, and we need to know that faithfulness is needed in our relationship with God and our relationship with each other. One last passage as I transition to the next two verses in our text. If you'd go to Psalm 37 real quick. Psalm 37. And as you're turning there, let me quote one that's quoted often in Proverbs 16:9. The heart of a man plans his way. Do you know the rest of this verse? But the Lord, right, establishes his steps. God is going to direct you, but you're going to plan your way. Psalm 37 is going to tell you how. And it's going to put it in the context of us looking at other people and we think, well, they get to plan according to the flesh, which is they can make a plan and if something better comes along, they just do the better thing. But that's not how we're supposed to live. We're supposed to live differently, and our plans are described for us in this great text. Look at the beginning of this psalm, Psalm 37, verse 1. Fret not yourself because of evildoers, verse 1 says. Why in the world would I fret about evildoers? Well, because they're doing wrong things and it's affecting me negatively, and I'm really upset about what I'm reading, what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing. And don't be envious of wrongdoers. Are you ever envious of wrongdoers? Well, I bet everyone in the room, if you're honest, you're envious of people that don't have the moral strictures that you have. You're committed to the Lord. You got to serve the Lord. You got to do things that God tells you to do. I'd have more expendable income if I never gave a dime to the church. That'd be true. I'd have a lot more time if I didn't have to go the extra mile, stay the extra hour, spend the extra dollar. Just as we said last week, if my intentions weren't godly, I'd have a lot more stuff to spend on myself. There's plenty of reasons I can envy the guy across the street who can get his golf clubs, throw them in the back of his trunk, and head off on a Sunday morning. I can understand that. And I can frustrate myself over the fact that non-Christians are out there doing all kinds of things, whatever they want. They steal, they cheat, they rob, they do whatever they want to do. But verse 2 says they'll soon fade like the grass. Remember that. That's not a winning strategy. They're going to wither like the green herb. They may look really green right now, but it's going to rot. And it will be kindling for the fire, to quote John the Baptist. What should I do? Verse 3, trust in the Lord, trust in Yahweh, and do good. Dwell in the land. Just sit there, keep doing what you're doing. And here's the best line, and befriend faithfulness. That's all I'm trying to teach you this morning. Right now, at least in the first part of this sermon, I want to be best friends with faithfulness. Delight yourself in the Lord. Make it all about him, and he'll give you the desires of your heart. Well, that's the problem. He's not doing it. Sure, taking a long time. Look at those guys. They get to do whatever they want. They get to have immediate gratification, and you're delaying all this gratification in my life. Well, that's how it works. But you keep planning to do good. Now, here's the key word. Look at this Hebrew word here in verse 5. You have your software up. Click on this. Commit your way to the Lord. You got your laptops, your tablets. Click on it. Commit. What is that? That's the Hebrew word. It's the verb to roll. Roll it. Roll your way to the Lord. What is that? This is metaphorical. It's an analogous kind of way to look at it, an illustrative way to describe my plans. Paul's going to make a plan to go to Corinth twice, on his way and on his way back from Macedonia before he goes back to Israel. And he took his plans, and we know this because this is what godly people do, and they roll them over to the Lord. I'm going to make a plan, going to be thoughtful, going to be prayerful, going to be with a clear conscience. It's going to be purely motivated, and it's going to be in faithfulness. I'm going to commit to doing this. And he rolls that plan over to the Lord. Trust in him and he will act. Now there comes the rub, setting us up for the second point. The next two verses in our passage. It's the Lord that will act. Psalm 127, you've quoted it many times. You've heard it quoted. Lest the Lord builds the house, you can swing the hammer all day long and you can have your ripsaw out, but you know what? House isn't going to be built. God doesn't want it built, not going to be built. You can work all day on it, not going to be built. Unless the Lord watches the city, the watchman, the alarm system, the guns that are trained at the horizon, if there's anybody that encroaches upon our property, you're going to stay up in vain. Because if God wants the city to be broached, there's going to be a breach and there will be a conquest. I can plan, I can think it's a good plan, but God, independent of my planning, may have a different agenda. And that's what's going on here. So you got to take your plan and roll it over to the Lord. And guess what? In time, he'll bring forth your righteousness as the light. Now, here's the problem with the psalmist. Right now, he's thinking, I want what's good. David is writing this. He says, I'd like this, but it's not happening. No, he'll bring forth your righteousness as the light and your justice as the noonday. You're going to be satisfied at noon. Well, he's up at 3 a.m. waiting for noon. It's a long time till dawn, let alone noon. It's not happening fast enough. Well, what am I supposed to do? Verse 7, be still, chill out, relax. Be still before the Lord. Wait patiently for him. Fret not over the one who prospers in his way. Do you see that this is a nice little inclusio from verse 1 to verse 7? Right? Don't fret about them. They're prospering in their way. I get it. Over the man who carries out his evil desires, but he's not living for the Lord. You make your plans, and your plans might get frustrated because there's someone bigger than you and a bigger plan that's more important than your plan. And you just need to trust that. Your job is to faithfully plan, but take those faithful plans and roll them over to the Lord.